When Nintendo first announced that 64 games are coming to the Switch's online service with online capabilities, one of the first things that everybody thought about immediately was how awesome it was going to be able to play the first Smash Bros. Game with anybody from around the world. And then, yeah, it never happened. I mean, we literally got Microsoft bringing GoldenEye to the Switch before Nintendo gave us Smash Bros. Themselves. You know, a game they own. Fast forward a little bit later, Nintendo decided to finally bring GameCube games to the Switch too. But as awesome as this should have been for Smash Bros. Fans, nobody even bothered getting excited, because we all knew damn well that Nintendo isn't even going to consider bringing Melee to the GameCube's library. And to this day, they still haven't, which is why we're here right now. Well, you know, unless Nintendo decides to put it out right after I post this video just to spite me, in which case, you're welcome, thank me in the comments. But regardless of whether the above average size then decides to put them out in 20 years, never at all, or making us wait as long as they have so far, the real question at hand here is, why do they hate longtime Smash Bros. Fans? Well, sit back in your most offensive chair and I'll tell you why. Okay, so the basic gist as to why Nintendo doesn't want to support any Smash games other than the current one is because Masahiro Big Whip Sakurai kinda takes it personally when fans choose an older game over the current one. Because you see, in his mind, each Smash game's an improvement over the last one, and anybody who thinks otherwise is insane. Kinda like how Robert Plant feels about old Led Zeppelin songs. That guy hates the old songs to the point where he doesn't even want to play them anymore, and if you ask me, I think that's how Sakurai views older Smash Bros. Games. Personally, I'm not exactly a competitive player. I mean, I'm competent, but I'm definitely never gonna be winning any Smash tournaments. So with that being said, I personally just prefer playing Ultimate, cause I like Smash best as a party game, so in that sense, I actually do agree with Sakurai, but unlike Sakurai, I actually do respect the competitive Smash scene. Uncle Saki loves the idea of throwing a monkey wrench into the game, allowing shitty players to have a chance against pros just like Mario Kart. Like, if you're the best, you're still gonna win most of the time, but that monkey wrench does keep the chance for an upset alive. And you wanna know who hates upset fluke victories based entirely on luck? That's right, anybody who's competitive about anything. So of course the competitive players prefer to just turn everything off and play on the most basic stage in the game. Since the game does provide that as an option, it's not technically wrong by Sakurai's own rules, but it's still something I don't think he prefers. Ultimate caved a little bit in this fan demand, but it felt like it was kicking and screaming a little bit, if you ask me. A lot of fans love the physics of the older games because they were faster, but Sakurai wants everybody to love Smash Bros. And to not intimidate the newcomers. The faster gameplay does seem a little less inviting. I mean, if you're getting your ass kicked by a pro at high speeds, you don't even know what happened. And I mean, you can't exactly say that the more casual approach didn't work with Smash Ultimate selling out the ass, but that could also be contributed to the insane roster of characters from, like, everything ever. Something I hear a few diehard fans hating on every now and then, by the way. Personally, I think the overbloated roster is awesome just because of how ridiculous this is, but I do agree that some fans can be insanely ungrateful when their favorite characters don't get in. Like, I don't think anybody honestly really wants Waluigi in that badly. I think that it's just that they want to feel like they won by Sakurai giving them something they've asked for, even if it was mostly as a joke at first. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure a lot of people actually do want Waluigi in the game, just not as many people as you might think if you go on the internet, is all I'm saying. At least not that badly, anyway. I bring this up because I do think that Big Whip probably hates that he almost literally died making Ultimate, coming into work with an IV jammed up his ass, only for people to not praise him for everything he did, but to troll him over everything he didn't do. And even when he does give the people what they want, it must sting for so many people to still prefer going back to the old games that he made way faster that he thinks aren't as good. And he also hates when fans complain about adjusting character balance because they're just never going to be satisfied. Which, to be fair, I actually do agree with him on. I mean, how are you gonna perfectly balance 100 characters to where they're all just as good as each other? Hell, even with Melee, diehard fans can't even agree to the North American or PAL versions of the true versions you should be playing. And as for re-releasing the older games, I know that Smash 64 did come to the Wii's Virtual Console, but times were different back then. I mean, if I had to guess, I'd imagine that Nintendo probably never thought that unauthorized Smash tournaments would ever be as big of a deal and just kinda saw it as another game to toss in the mix. You know, to make money. They probably just assumed fans would think of it as a novelty and like kind of touch it every now and then, if ever at all, and then got butthurt when the game community didn't jump all over Brawl.
The gay community.
No, AJ Styles, the game community, or, you know, the Smash community in particular. I mean, friggin' Microsoft added GoldenEye to the 64's library before Nintendo added Smash Bros. Now that GameCube games finally came to the Switch, one of the coolest things Nintendo could do would be to just put Melee on there. But obviously, they're probably not gonna anytime soon, and if they do, it's because of me, haha. But I mean, seriously, imagine being able to play Melee online with people. I mean, you could actually get good without having to, you know, meet people in real life and go to tournaments. As for Smash 64 though, there have been teases and sleuthing, but for whatever reason, still not on the 64's online service. I mean, people spotted blurred box art in Nintendo's own materials and started connecting dots and all that, when I'm sure eventually they will put it out, and when Smash Ultimate's dead and buried probably, but it's not like it's been released at the time of this recording, so what are you doing, Nintendo? So when I say the above-average-sized den hates older Smash games, I'm not pointing at a tweet or a quote or anything like that, I'm pointing at actions. I mean, no Smash 64 in the 64 app, even after GoldenEye, a shiny new GameCube shelf on the Switch 2 that launches without Melee in sight, unlike the original GameCube's launch, mind you, and a long history of Nintendo being extremely strict about how Smash is played at official events. Not to mention what tech's allowed online, and, shutting down online Smash tournaments during a pandemic. Although, to be fair, that one has a lot less to do with them hating Smash players and way more to do with them just hating everybody in general. But all this definitely matters because it shaped expectations. I mean, when Nintendo eventually greenlights 64 and Melee, which they will someday, people are gonna want it to feel like the community versions. They're gonna want clean netcode, fast inputs, good matchmaking, the works. Because if it's worse than what people already have at home, they're just gonna roast it and keep playing the older games that they're not making money off of. So Nintendo's gonna either have to meet that bar or take the heat. And meeting that bar isn't trivial either. And Nintendo's pattern with tournaments tells you all you need to know about where they stand on third-party solutions. Although to be fair, they did authorize the 64's Hori pad. But when Nintendo shut Big House's online Melee tournament during the pandemic though, it definitely wasn't subtle. And the Smash World Tour cancellation saga also showed how tight the licensing leash is. If you don't have a license, you don't run. End of story. And I don't know about you, but to me, that doesn't exactly scream that they're eager to promote old metas alongside their current one. Again, that's not second-guessing motives, that's just reading a paper trail. There's also the rights tangle you gotta deal with every time you bring back older entries. 'Cause Smash Bros. Games aren't exactly just characters and stages, they've got tons of music and third-party arrangements that were negotiated for a time and place. And if a re-release needs some edits, players are definitely gonna notice. So Nintendo's choice at that point is either trim or delay it. If you trim it, you get yelled at for a fake classic. If you delay it, people are gonna yell at you for holding the game hostage. And also, online load is a real thing too. I mean, if they ever went the extra mile and added ranked lobbies or online events for retro games, then they're essentially gonna be signing themselves up for moderate disconnects, rage quits, bad connections, and rule set drama. And when it comes to Nintendo and rules with Smash Bros., really more specifically Sakurai, a lot of people just aren't gonna be happy. I mean, there are some officially authorized Nintendo tournaments that allow for no items, no Smash meter, no spirits, and Final Destination, but for the most part, they definitely want you to play by their rules. Items being turned on, albeit at low, final smashes, no swearing, no throwing clubs, and especially no hitting other players.
Oh good, you mean no fun?
If the items are on, competitive folks are gonna roll their eyes. If it's items off with neutral stages, you basically endorse the comp rules publicly. Either way, Nintendo would be taking sides even if they don't exactly mean to, which we all know they would mean to. And meanwhile, Smash Ultimate does still exist, and I'm sure there's gonna be another Smash coming to Switch 2 in the near future anyway. But regardless of which version of the main one Nintendo's gonna wanna be going with, it's still gonna be selling DLC, which Nintendo would always prefer we still buy. And at the end of the day, we're all less likely to buy it if Nintendo's running older Smash games for free on their online service. Although it could actually make people wanna buy the newer games, but I don't think that's a risk Nintendo's willing to take, at least not anytime soon anyway. But my point is, from a company standpoint, it is obvious why they'd wanna keep the focus on the current thing. From a fan standpoint though, it's obvious why you'd want to play the classics. And if you grew up on the older physics, you don't want it sorta like that. You want the game you love on your current box with online enabled that doesn't feel like a time machine. And to me, it's really not that crazy to ask. So at the end of the day, I think Nintendo's avoiding dropping Smash 64 and Melee onto the Switch's online service, because once they're out there, they're out there. If the online's not good enough, it's gonna be a headache, and if the rights issues force cuts, it's gonna be a headline. Let's say the hardcores are completely satisfied with the re-releases, which we all know they're never gonna be, but let's say that happens. At that point, the community's gonna be split by design, and every balance decision in a new Smash Bros. Game is gonna have to live in the shadow of that choice. But the company can avoid this problem altogether if they avoid the situation, or at least that's what they think anyway. The players, of course, see that as neglect, though. Thankfully, though, Nintendo does release NTSC and PAL versions of GameCube games, though. So at least everybody's gonna get what they want when they do decide to bring the older Smash Bros. Games. But let's be real, though. Older Smash Bros. Games don't need the below-oversized den's permission to keep existing. People are still gonna run weeklies, people are still gonna use CRTs and adapters, and people are still gonna use Slippy at home. Official support would definitely make it way easier for newcomers, but the scene's already proved that it can survive outside of official channels, and part of me thinks that a lot of the fans would probably rather keep it punk rock like that. Personally, I think you could love Ultimate's everyone can play vibe and still have respect for Melee's I wanna grind tech depth. Two completely different philosophies when it comes to Smash Bros, but they can both coexist with each other just fine if you ask me. Where I land is pretty simple though. If you're gonna shine a big light on Nintendo's retro platforms on the Switch 1 or 2, then it's pretty friggin' weird to leave some of the most obvious picks out for that audience. I mean, if you're gonna give us a GameCube app and not include the best-selling game on that console, then come on, what are we doing here, you know? If you're gonna pad the 64 library but still not drop Smash 64 after years of people asking, and after getting GoldenEye of all things, then the message people hear is, we're not really in a hurry. I mean, sure, you don't have to hate something to deprioritize it, but when you're the fan waiting, it definitely feels like that. That's exactly why this topic's never gonna die, because the game's still hit and the community still want to play them. One of the easiest dubs Nintendo could pull right now would just be to give us the older Smash Bros. Games. Hell, I don't even think people want Brawler 4. Just give us the first two games, you dinguses. Maybe Nintendo does it tomorrow just to spite me and date this video, or maybe they keep slow rolling forever. Either way, I'm not guessing motives anymore. I'm just looking at what's actually on the menu and what isn't is all. Until things change though, the conversation never will, and the older Smash games are gonna keep doing what they've always done. Find a way to be played. But anyway, that's all for today, but if you got a kick out of my incoherent rambling and disturbing imagery though, then you should check out the video I made ranking all the Smash characters from good to evil, but I made it before the Wicked Binge channel did, although I did rip the good and evil concept off from them because I didn't think they were doing video games, but anyway, I gotta go pay the water bill. Later!